Can we all agree that this is one of the most embarrassing things that we've ever watched?
What was that? South Africa been saying you have a target on your back, but this was a sabotage. Because let's be clear, this wasn't a meeting, this wasn't even a diplomatic visit. This was a straight up trial, and President T came armed. His whole team need bonuses and vacations with the way they pulled out videos, articles, pictures, receipts. And President Ramaphosa was bamboozled, thinking about this was just another day of strengthening bilateral ties. No, sir. Someone on your payroll had to have set you up. Because who shows up with rich businessmen, okay? Famous golfer, one of them is a famous golfer, couple of ministers, and a 14 kg golf book to an off-the-record cross-examination. And don't get me started on the Minister of International Relations and Cooperations, Ronald Lamola, the one next to President Ramaphosa. When I saw him, I was like, thank God. Even though he didn't bring his notes and articles because he probably treated this as a vacation, he definitely can speak on SAP's finding, which is South Africa Police Services, their findings, since he used to be the former Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. He's been all over this case, only to find out he gave us nothing. Like, he sat there like a student, nothing coming out of his memory. And then there was this South African businessman, Rupert, who I've never seen before, but I kind of like him because he did what any family member would do when there's in-house dispute or fighting. He patched up those allegations and said, listen, crime is affecting all of South Africa, it's not just a specific group, okay? So if you can go ahead and give us those technologies, we'll be on our way. Kind of like saying, don't let any strangers into family affairs. I don't know if I can do more because there was so much going on.
Today, Donald Trump meeting with the president of South Africa and attempting to ambush and humiliate that leader inside the Oval Office. But what he did instead was embarrass and humiliate the people of the United States of America. Again.
President of the United States is an embarrassment and a liar, and the latest example of embarrassment and lying came in front of not just the president of South Africa, but in front of the entire world. Seemingly some research was done here that's really at the level of like a 6th grader who's cramming to write a paper that they forgot about for the past month. It was showing the president of South Africa a series of news clippings that were allegedly supposed to support his false claim that there is a genocide of white farmers. Except this clipping right here was a general article from a tiny news source that has absolutely nothing to do with South Africa. This is talking about general tribalism in Africa, and this right here is from an attack that took place in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. You might remember when that happened. It was absolutely awful. It was back in February when over 100 female prisoners were raped and then burned alive. Donald Trump is doing here is using a clipping talking about black women being killed in a different country to back up his claim of a white genocide in South Africa. That is how fucking unhinged the United States is right now. Donald also showed old footage of an anti-apartheid song being sung at a rally for a small party that won 9.5% of the vote in last year's election. Now, Donald also showed this, which is gone. He said this is still here, it's not there. He said every single one of these crosses was for a white farmer that was killed. This entire thing was a memorial for one couple that was killed in 2020. God rest their souls, but this was not representative of thousands of white farmers. This was about one couple.
They wore the hats, they flew the flags, and they believed every word that came out of the GOP. For years, white MAGA voters have stood by Donald Trump through the chaos, through the controversies, and through the conspiracies. But something has changed. After Sario meeting with South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, where Trump actually claimed a so-called white genocide unfolding in South Africa, a theory that is widely debunked and discredited, the cracks are finally showing. Many of his once devout supporters are feeling new emotions of shame, regret, and embarrassment in the man that actually they put all their trust in. They're finding out that they voted for embarrassment. They're now regretting their vote on social media, all over the internet, crying about and regretting what they did to themselves. Well, this is what you get when you don't listen to people who are trying to warn you about what you're doing with your vote and voting against your best interest. Now, what happens when the MAGA illusion breaks? What happens when loyalty meets reality? This is the story of MAGA voters who are speaking out and breaking out of MAGA. Let's take a look. I'm your presenter, Joel Mugisha. If you're new, kindly consider subscribing, like this video, and drop me your opinions in the comment section below. Let's keep the conversation going there as we take a look at these videos that I have compiled for you. I'll be back with more commentary.
Really wish that world leaders would stop coming to the Oval Office and meeting with Trump. He does not deserve to be normalized in any way, shape, or form. The only reason he invited the president of South Africa to the Oval Office was to push his propaganda. The entire hour interview was just him lying and pushing propaganda that white people are experiencing a genocide in South Africa, they're being unfairly targeted, yada, yada, yada. The same type of propaganda that's led to the indigenous population here in the United States nearly being wiped out.
Can we all agree that this is one of the most embarrassing fucking things that we've ever watched? I have a message directly for Donald Trump, and I really hope he sees this. Honestly, everybody needs to try to do everything that they possibly can to make this go as viral as possible, so somehow he sees this video. There is genocide occurring all across the entire world, and somehow you seem to be focused on white farmers that aren't even from this country. The most contradicting fucking part about all of that, though, is that you have the audacity to call that shit a genocide, but yet you can't address any of the actual genocide that people don't believe is occurring in Gaza. You could have even talked about the Congo, since you want to bring up shit happening in Africa, but yet you didn't. And then you allow them to resettle in the US as refugees? Is this shit a fucking joke? Why don't we bring up the problems that are occurring in our country that seem to have a lot of similarities to that of what happened to the white farmers? Shit, we can talk about sundown towns all fucking day, but yet that shit doesn't seem to ever be addressed. I wonder why. Then the fact that it's been reported that those murders that have occurred in South Africa, right, account for less than 1% of 27,000 annual murders nationwide. How does that equate to a genocide? At least 3,131 Palestinians have been killed and over 8,600 have been injured since the end of the 2-month ceasefire, which a special little group just so happened to violate, since March. And of course, that's not the first time. I wonder why. See, if people knew a little more about people like Jonathan Pollard, right, their eyes would really be open. Shit, if you want, go look into the Pegasus spyware for me real quick. All it takes is just a little bit of digging. But yet, here you are, allowing somebody else that you look up to and you idolize to form an opinion for you. You don't search for answers outside of that little box of comfortability that you can find yourself within inside of this infrastructural society that, let's be honest, doesn't really do anything for us to begin with. And of course, you'll have your average person that's like, oh, well, if you don't like it here, why don't you just move out of the country then? Dude, that is funny as fuck. I love when people say that shit.
Mr. President, thank you so much for having us in the Oval Office to talk about trading. Yeah, lower the lights. What's going on? You want to kill white people, huh? No. Let me play you a little video we have. That's a protest against violence. It's satirical. It's tongue-in-cheek. We have you on camera calling for the deaths of white people. But that's not even me.
Burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000 of white farmers. And those cars are lined up to pay love.
So many crosses. All for the dead white people. And I ambushed you.
So y'all president tried to have the same type of meeting with the South African president as he did with the president of Ukraine, and it didn't go quite the same way, did it? Like, when is he going to learn? But he's never gonna learn, because he don't learn anything, because he's stupid. Like, did you really think that was gonna go the way that you thought it was gonna go? Did you think that man of African descent was gonna allow you to embarrass him on the world stage? Like that man is not going to let you go and do whatever you want to do. Like, and the thing about it is, these people that come into the White House and talk to him, they are professional politicians. They are world leaders, real leaders that know leadership and understand the bigger picture. This man that you all have elected knows none of that. He's not a politician. He doesn't understand diplomacy. He doesn't understand what goes into really running a country the right way. But you all voted for him. And he continues to embarrass this country that you all say you love. But we know y'all lying about that. Y'all don't love this country. Y'all love idiocy. You all love the things that come with him and the destruction that he brings. You all love that. But I hope y'all keep loving it when he destroys all of y'all. Because it's coming.
Okay, so I just need to make sure that you guys have heard about this, because if you saw the White House meeting yesterday with the South African president, you saw Trump pull out two things, which were obviously in an attempt to justify, this season of America's the most racist country on planet Earth. He showed a video where there were crosses like lining an interstate, like a road, and supposedly those were all like the burial sites for, many killed white South Africans. And then he also showed a picture of like a burial. All right, well, it has come out now that those two pieces were not as he presented them. So let me tell you what they were, so you can push back against the bullshit talking narrative of the MAGA cultists. Because these aren't just mistakes. These are deliberate attempts to manipulate the narrative to justify this importing of, fresh white blood into America. Let's deal with those crosses that were lining that road. He's saying like, oh, these are fresh burial sites and these are all white farmers who are being killed. No. Those crosses were from a 2020 protest, as in they were put there to make a point, not because they're burial sites. And then Google went back and looked, and in 2023, that very same road, no crosses. You know why? Because it was just a protest. So our president is so dumb that he actually believes that someone doing a protest, which is basically a form of art, okay, that those were fresh burial sites. And he's saying that that's white genocide. Okay. Gramps, take a nap. And when you even look at this claim, it doesn't even make sense, okay? In 2024, there were 44 killings in the farming community as a whole, and only 8 of them were farmers. 8. That isn't genocide. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to leave me some fire emojis down in the comments. Back to the video. Now let's deal with that picture that he held up, that it looked like a burial. So that image, it wasn't even in South Africa. BBC hunted it down, and then Reuters verified it. That was a February 2025 clip filmed in Goma, the Democratic Republic of Congo, tied to a report about women's deaths in the area. Nothing to do with farmers and nothing to do with South Africa. So I just wanted to push back against that, because I've heard all the right-wing puppets talking and using those videos and those images. They're not even related, guys. That has nothing to do with what is going on. They want to import people for reasons that I'm sure I don't have to explain to you. When you get rid of everybody that's brown and then you start bringing in people who are, well, you do the math. Y'all tell me why he's doing it.
If you don't think Donald Trump is racist, then you did not just witness what happened between him and the South African president in the Oval Office while they were supposed to be discussing coming together on a bill. Donald Trump never gave a fuck about Gaza. He never gave a fuck about you. So for everybody who said, oh my goodness, we are voting for him because Joe Biden allowed a mass genocide to happen. Donald Trump just asked the South African president in the Oval Office why he allowed white refugees to go through a genocide in South Africa. Do you know how fucking crazy that is? The same white refugees he brought here to take all the farmland that the government seized that have no farming skills. Same immigrants from Africa that their entire lineage is known for killing Africans to take their land. Yeah, he just asked the president of South Africa, the black president, why he allowed them to experience a genocide and confronted him on a genocide in South Africa. That is not fucking happening, by the way. It's not happening. So for everyone who's like, oh, well, why would we vote for Biden? And did he ask the leader of Israel why he's encouraging a genocide? Or seizing the Gaza Strip? Or unaliving thousands of people daily? No, but he asked in the name of white refugees. Okay, what fucking timeline are we in? What fucking timeline are we in that our president is ignoring having parts in a war that has actively been an actual genocide, but instead turned to racism and these white refugees who literally are descendants of some of the worst racists in the world, and asked their president why he'd allowed them to experience genocide? That didn't happen. I need to get the fuck out of this place. I need to get out of this place. We're doomed. We're going the wrong way.
So Donald Trump had one of his White House press conferences with another world leader. This time it was a gentleman by the name of Cyril Ramaphosa, I believe. He is the president of South Africa. Now this man happens to be black. And you thought you might have a nice little conversation. Donald Trump would talk about all his big wins that are bullshit. But that's not what happened. What happened was an ambush a la President Zelensky. Donald Trump had been getting some pushback about bringing these white South Africans in to this country. He was making claims of genocide against white people in South Africa. So he brings this president in, and he immediately goes after him. He has a stack of conspiracy theories on paper and hands them to him and wants to show a video and all this stuff. Everything that Donald Trump said about this alleged genocide in South Africa is not happening, but he needed to prove his point, give a reason why he brought these people in. The bottom line is it's about racism. It's about performance. It's about stupid shit. That's what Donald Trump does. So once again, he embarrasses the entire country by bringing in a world leader. He ambushes him, gets unhinged. And then when the press start asking him questions like about the plane or whatever, he loses his shit on them too. Here's a guy that doesn't have the temperament to be a president. Fuck, he doesn't have the temperament to be a cashier at a grocery store. We're getting tired of seeing these things. It's an embarrassment. And how many more embarrassments do we have to go through before the Republicans say, enough?
Trump steady trying to embarrass these presidents. You can't do the South African president like you did the Ukrainian president. It got turned up in that Oval Office, okay? And it's annoying, like, we bringing these presidents here just so that we can embarrass them and insult their presidency? For what? You're just trying to push your racist agenda. Refugees only for white South Africans. We're not stupid. We don't believe it. I mean, us as Americans, we just don't get no power to change it. But, like, we're not stupid. At least I'm not stupid.
Alright guys, there you have it actually. As we have seen in the videos that are compiled for you, man, things are getting heated because even MAGA is actually getting embarrassed by their vote, by who, they voted for, because they're wondering how comes that, the person that actually they elected to make America great again, to make MAGA great again, is actually concerned about people who are outside of the United States instead of helping people who are in the United States. We all know the Orange Man's slogan when he was vying for presidency was, basically to mass deport illegal immigrants. He was saying these people are coming to America and he was calling them criminals. We also know that a lot of illegal immigrants are actually benefiting indirectly the economy of the United States. We have seen this with MAGA farmers in Nebraska, Texas, and California, who are largely depending on these illegal immigrants for their farms to actually work. Now, when you come here and say that you don't want illegal immigrants, you don't want Latinos in the country, and you deport them in masses, yet you are bringing other group of white people from South Africa all the way across the ocean on another continent, yet you are rejecting people who are in the same continent as you, because most Latinos come from the Americas, the America continent. They might be from South America. They might even be from North America, right there at the doorstep, in Mexico. But we've seen that ICE, raids have been raiding up everybody who actually looks like a brown person, everybody who looks like a Latino. They don't care. They just, pick you up in groups and they detain you, they deport you. Some people have been even wrongly deported, yet they're US citizens. Now, look at South Africa. There you go, bring in some immigrants, white immigrants. This shows that, the government has some double standards there, because some people are actually getting embarrassed by, what this government actually stands for. This means, basically you don't want black and brown people. You only want people who are palm colored. You only want white people per se, because these people are coming in as farmers from the United States on a propaganda of, experiencing a genocide in their own country. Now, why are they calling this a genocide? This is because, South Africa basically was colonized a long time ago by the Brits, the French, people from Europe. We all know the stories in Africa of colonialism. Now, when these people actually came to South Africa, they took the land from the original owners. They took the land from the black people in South Africa. And we all know the story of apartheid. Now, they never actually returned it, while so many people, while so many countries who were colonized in Africa actually were given independence, and, the white people returned back to Europe. In South Africa, it wasn't so. They stayed. The white people stayed, and they actually kept on owning the land, which was not theirs. Now, this ANC government, which is the government that actually Cyril Ramaphosa, the South African president, represents, the ANC is actually a party, the biggest party in South Africa. This is the same party that Nelson Mandela was actually from. They're saying that they have to get this land back. They have to proportionately redistribute this land between the whites and the blacks in South Africa. They're not even taking it by force. They have taken this to the court of law. They're saying even companies actually now have to do something of the sort of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, where if you're employing 50% white people, you also have to employ 50% black people. This is basically what they're saying. Now, these people who are in South Africa, especially white farmers, are claiming that they are experiencing a genocide, that, their land is being grabbed. Wow, what an irony. How did you get it? Well, I think most of us, we can answer that in the comment section below, how they got it. Now, we have seen videos from South Africans actually saying the white people, the rich white people in South Africa, they're not even interested in coming to the United States. It's the poor white people in South Africa that are actually, looking for this opportunity to immigrate in the United States. And guess what? They were paid for. And guess what? They were brought on a government chartered plane, and everything was paid for by American taxpayers' money. Now, how are the farmers in the United States doing? Now, how are the farmers in the United States doing? Well, we all know the MAGA farmers, most of them are MAGA voters, and they have been struggling because they have actually lost a wide, range of their labor force, which was included and largely supported by illegal immigrants. Well, why is the government bringing in these white farmers from South Africa? Well, you can put the pieces together and you get to know why. They're coming in to replace the people who are being actually, deported. The brown people are being deported, and they're trying also to increase the numbers of, the palm-colored people in the country, because they're actually becoming the minority, because brown and black people are actually majority now. So what's happening? This is what's happening. When Cyril Ramaphosa actually came to the United States for, diplomatic visit, the government tried to ambush him. The Orange Man tried to ambush him, just like they did with the president of a country that you don't mention. You know what I mean? The one that they were asking why he wasn't wearing a suit. Yeah, that one. So they tried to ambush him, but the man was actually very calm and composed. And very many white MAGA actually is feeling embarrassed because, this is embarrassing to them. How come, their president, the man who was supposed to make America great again, is embarrassing himself in front of the world, in front of world leaders? Well, this is what's happening. Let me know in your comment section below. What do you think about this? Keep the conversation going. Like this video. If you're new, kindly consider subscribing. I'm your presenter, Joel Mugisha. Thank you very much for choosing us again. See you on the next episode.